Okay, today I'm going to be discussing Chapter 6 of Spring, working with configuration properties. So in this chapter, we cover fine-tuning auto-configured beans, so auto-configured objects, applying configuration properties to application components, working with Spring profiles. So this was mainly all about configuration properties. So yeah, let's jump into the code and see what it's about. So um gonna run my application, but first I'm just gonna discuss the code. So firstly, you can see here we still have the same folders, but we added security configuration. This is gonna help us with the security of our program. So mainly allowing a user to perform specific functions in the application based off whether they're authorized or not. So it deals with authorization. So here we import configuration, right? And we use configuration here to create configuration objects. So we also have authentication configuration, which helps with authenticating a user in order for the user to use the application when they're logged in. So I have this user details variable. Then we have this security filter chain method, right? Within it, we use the authorized HTTP request method, which initially has these endpoints design and orders for whenever user wants to design a taco. This endpoint is it, and when a user is creating orders, this endpoint is used. So this is mainly dealing with HTTP requests, right? So a GET request, POST request, PUT request to these specific endpoints for a user to perform these specific functionalities in the application, such as designing a taco and making an order. Then we have here form login, right? For the user to receive a login form and to make a GET request to this login endpoint to receive the login form, as well as to log in when they make a PUT request as they add their details to the login form. This is for logging out. CSRF configuration, which is made to this endpoint H2 console, so that the user can get the interface to interact with the database. And then HTTP builds the configuration. Then this password encoder is going to use bcrypt password encoder to basically encode the password. Then we have public authentication manager, which is a method. This method is just going to use auth config get authentication manager. So it calls this method from that class. So this just deals with authentication. Then we'll edit here order props as well. We have a development config. So basically this class, what initially the main idea of this is for when the user starts the application, this runs. So what this mainly does is it deletes the data before the application was closed. It deletes all that data and then it re-adds new data for the user to work with in the application. So yeah, that's what development config does. So in order to do that, we have command line runner. We've imported it here. It basically lets you run code automatically when the app starts. So this is what lets us run this code automatically when the app starts. and I'll explain why we need the command line runner in this case. Configuration marks this class as a configuration class. Profile controls which environments this config runs into. Then we have password encoder to encode the password. Then we import these models, right? So ingredient repository, right? User repository. To what? Interact with the database in order to use the data for ingredient repository, as well as for users or user profiles per se. So within development config, we have this data loader method. So we're using command line runner, right, to run this application immediately when the app starts. So what this initially does is it uses this run method, and within it we delete all the ingredients from the repo variable, which represents this parameter, which is pointing to the ingredient repository. So we're deleting all the data from the ingredient repository, delete all the data from the user repository. That's what this method does immediately when the program starts. It's able to do it immediately because of command line runner. As soon as it does that, immediately after that, it adds fresh ingredients to the database, so new ingredients to the database. So it does that using save, and then it adds the ingredient object to repo, and it does that for all these ingredient objects. And as soon as that happens, it does the same thing for the users, because remember we deleted the users. So then it adds a new user object, which is the test user we're going to use to test the application, adds it to user repo. So it's adding sample data for testing. That's what that does. Then we have discount props, which just holds, it has a hash map to hold the discount props. Then we have our HTML pages that we've added, like order form, order list, which shows a list of the tacos that a user ordered. Discount list, which shows the discount codes. And yeah, that was basically a summary of chapter 6 for Spring. Cool.